Quiet, numbskulls, I'm broadcasting.
The medical marijuana. The medical marijuana. Radio show. The medical marijuana for you and me. Ah, yeah, the medical marijuana. Whoa, 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 ah, yeah, the medical. It's the medical marijuana show. You knew we know.
I want to talk to you. I want to talk to you. Hey, boy, don't feel my world untrue. Yeah, I want to talk to you. My world can be true if you do what I tell you to. I want to talk to you.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome once again to another edition of Medical Marijuana Radio for Saturday, the 26th of March, 2016. I'm your host, Larry Love. We're here every week to bring you the latest information on medical cannabis and adult use cannabis from all over the globe. This week, our show is our annual Get Ready to Start Planting show, where we're going to have an expert on, Jonathan Sanchez, a local here in New Mexico. He's an activist. He's also a grow expert and consults around for LNPPs and for licensed patient growers. So we'll talk about popping seeds and getting going, and also a short interview with Sharon Pomerantz, who is running a BYOC events here in Santa Fe and in New Mexico, and there's one coming up on April 2nd, next Saturday, that we will talk about for medical patients only. But first, as always, I've got news for you.
I've got news for you.
Yes, I've got news for you. This is from the paintreatmentsolutions.net. Dated March 23rd, just a couple days ago. U.S. government agency quietly acknowledged that marijuana may help fight brain tumors. Getting this out in the public is definitely good. Researchers have been studying the medical benefits of marijuana for years, but this month marks the first time the National Institute on Drug Abuse, NIDA, a research group funded by the U.S. government, has acknowledged that cannabis extracts may help kill certain cancer cells and reduce the size of others. NIDA quietly revised a page on its website titled "Drug Facts: Is Marijuana Medicine?" end quote. This month to state that evidence, quote, from one cell culture study suggests that purified extracts from whole plant marijuana can slow the growth of cancer cells from one of the most serious types of brain tumors. This is absolutely amazing that they're now acknowledging this, and of course what we know next is we need to get it off the schedule. That's for darn sure. We do have a lot of news for you, other than that. Nevada, I've said it before, it's going to be one of the biggest, not only medical but recreational states in the country, and will probably be the go-to cannabis place to be in the world to go, because they're going to recognize medical cards from other states, and they also will have recreation most likely coming up. So here is this report from Nevada's medical industry, boding well after a slow start.
Nevada's medical marijuana industry is still less than a year old, but after a slow start, dispensaries are popping up around the valley.
19 dispensaries are now certified by the state, and nearly all of them are open. Patrick Walker shows us how those businesses are trying to shed the stigma as the medical marijuana industry grows.
In recent months, you've probably seen more signs for dispensaries popping up around Las Vegas.
This pen right here is a THC pen. And
there are about 15,000 medical marijuana cardholders in Nevada, a small fraction of the population who see inside these facilities. Many are first-time patients, and industry representatives say people are slowly opening up to the idea of medical cannabis.
I think as more people become familiar with it, and understand that it's a medicine and not really much of a, street drug, especially now that we have it this way, I think it's going to be easier now.
The dispensaries try to ditch the pothead sanctuary feel. Some, like the apothecary shop across from the Palms, have gone for an elegant look and atmosphere.
You don't smell the marijuana. You don't leave smelling like marijuana.
Others have a more modern feel.
Why we display our strains on the wall with information like art.
Like Las Vegas Oasis Medical Cannabis. But getting to this point has been a well-documented struggle for marijuana businesses. Permit problems and questions over pesticides plagued the industry. And then there was the supply shortage. 26 cultivation facilities are now licensed, but there weren't many when dispensaries started opening. Mesquite's Deep Roots Harvest was open then, and now supplies at least 13 of the 19 Clark County dispensaries.
We're using 2/3 of the facility right now, and we also have the ability to expand to another 40,000 square feet.
It was a slow start, but the president of the Las Vegas Medical Marijuana Association says it's all worth it for the patients.
We have the safest product, we have the best doctors involved, so it really is medicine in Nevada. We're doing it right.
Patrick Walker, 8 News Now.
It really is medicine in Nevada. You caught that, and you also probably caught the statement about trying to get rid of the pothead image that medical cannabis should not have. And of course, there's a lot of controversy here in Albuquerque, New Mexico, with one of the licensed producers, Ultra Health, who has hooked up with a place called Birdland on Central, down by in Nob Hill, which is Birdland is a hippie shop, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm an old hippie myself, but the image that they are projecting onto the medical cannabis industry here in New Mexico is exactly the image that we've all been trying to get rid of over the past 5 to 7, 8 years that medical cannabis has been and has become a medicine. The story we did just before this about NIDA saying that it is good for getting rid of brain tumors. I mean, it's a medicine. We're trying to get rid of the hippie aspect of the medical industry. And of course, Ultra Health and Birdland is taking us 10 steps backwards. So thank you guys. We really appreciate it, and we know we know where you're at when it comes to recreational use of cannabis and medical. So I hope that you're still around when recreation hits. Thank you, Ultra Health and Birdland. More about medical cannabis. Cancer Support Center in Montana hosts a medical cannabis discussion. Maybe that's what Ultra Health should be doing. Maybe they should be having some discussions about using it as medicine.
A cancer support group in Bozeman held a medical marijuana forum where cancer patients shared what they need the drug to live a normal life. This centers on the recent Montana Supreme Court decision to uphold stricter medical cannabis laws, which make it harder for patients to get their supply. NBC Montana's Josh Cristianto has the report.
At the Cancer Support Community Building in Bozeman, a group of cancer patients and survivors illustrate how medical cannabis helps them through the pain.
And I felt like I could be there for them, and I could get my energy up, and I could eat something and just be present.
Katie Mazurek is a stage 3 breast cancer patient. She hasn't been able to get a medical marijuana card since the application process has slowed down after the court handed down its decision.
I am stalled out from getting medication that I believe would very much help my treatment and my quality of care, or my quality of life right now.
Currently, there are about 14,000 patients enrolled for medical cannabis. Only 2,000 patients function as their own providers. If the Montana Supreme Court decision stands, thousands of patients won't be able to get their medicine from a provider and would need to grow their own or find their marijuana another way. Bozeman police aren't certain if any illegal trafficking is in the future, but they aren't preparing for anything right now.
We do care about the drugs that are coming into our community. I can tell you right now that largely We have drugs in our community that we're certainly more concerned about.
One panelist says if the stricter laws continue, she would have to move out of the state. Another said she would have to simply suffer. Most of the panelists agreed prescription drugs have terrible side effects and that medical cannabis improves their lives.
We are not bad people. We are sick people, and there's a difference there. And I feel that we're being persecuted a bit for being sick.
Mazurek believes it's the calling of people in public office to take care of the sick. Reporting in Bozeman, Josh Cristianto, NBC Montana.
Tougher state regulations would limit providers to 3 patients. Providers would also be subject to state inspections without a warrant. Medical marijuana is legal in 23 states and the District of Columbia. Some fast facts now from the United Patients Group about medical marijuana patients. Some states offer reciprocity, but you should check the rules of where you're headed long before leaving. Federal authorities can arrest a medical marijuana patient for traveling across state lines with marijuana, even if just traveling between states where it's legal. Medical marijuana patients cannot legally carry products on airlines because the TSA is governed by federal laws.
Although rumor and anecdotal information says that TSA does allow people to fly with their medicine within a state, and I've also heard people being able to fly from one state to another. That is a legal cannabis state. So moving on to Colorado, where a lot of this all started, Colorado veterans are suing for access to medical cannabis to treat PTSD. PTSD is not on the Colorado medical condition list, but of course patients can go recreational and buy it, but it costs more money. So Colorado veterans are suing. Here's this report.
Colorado veterans say it is a lifesaver. So tonight they're fighting for the right to use medical marijuana to treat post-traumatic stress disorder.
Medical marijuana has been prescribed for everything from cancer to cataracts, but in Colorado it cannot be used for PTSD. So now some local veterans are suing the state to change that. And new at 9:30, investigative reporter Heidi Hammett explains why recreational weed is not cutting it. Heidi?
Well, Iraq War vet Kurt Bean says recreational marijuana has given him his life back. But what he and so many other people like him want is access to medical marijuana specifically used to treat anxiety disorders, something they cannot have under current law.
Kurt Bean spent his teenage years in Iraq fighting for our country. There, the U.S. Army scout and sniper learned a valuable lesson: to kill or be killed.
Talking about taking lives is never easy, but especially, when you're, the person that is making those decisions, that's never something that you take lightly.
But it wasn't until Bean returned to the U.S. that he faced the fight of his life: depression and anxiety.
Drank a lot, stayed in bed a lot, avoided people.
The VA diagnosed Bean with PTSD and prescribed a powerful antidepressant, but it only made things worse. Then he tried recreational marijuana and felt relief.
And I was like, wow, I'm sleeping better. I have less anxiety. I'm able to function day to day.
Medical marijuana is approved to treat PTSD in several other states, but not Colorado.
This is a situation where science supports it, where other states have gone down this road.
Denver attorney Bob Hoban represents Bean and several other veterans. He's suing the state of Colorado, trying to force the state to allow PTSD sufferers access to medical marijuana specifically used to treat anxiety disorders.
The medical system and the medical stores should be accessible by PTSD sufferers because it provides different products, different potency of products, and a different variety of products than what's served on the retail or the recreational side.
Bean says marijuana has done more than ease his PTSD. It's opened up a whole new world of art and meditation. And while the Iraq War is behind him, Bean is ready to fight a legal battle in Colorado on behalf of veterans everywhere.
It's legal and it's moral, and it helps me and it helps other veterans. Veterans' lives have been saved by this. So why not talk about it, and why not get the word out about how powerful it is for everyone to be able to use it?
The Colorado Attorney General's office is representing the state in the lawsuit. We reached out to an AG spokesperson, but he did not comment. Heidi Hammett, Fox 31 Denver.
So PTSD obviously is on some states are allowing that for cannabis for PTSD. And as far as veterans are concerned, why should they have to fight for this medicine? 22 veterans a day commit suicide because of their PTSD and the tragedies that they've seen at war. Medical cannabis should be available free to all veterans and in every state. We need to federalize medical cannabis so that it's available to everybody. This is getting really crazy. Before we take a short break and then come back with Sharon Pomerantz about the BYOC event coming up, medical marijuana too expensive for some patients. That's for sure.
New York's medical marijuana law went into effect in January, but many patients say they still don't have access to the medicine. News 10 ABC's Rachel Yankunis is live now at the only dispensary that's open for this in Albany. Rachel?
Well, Tim, I'm told that the prices are market-based, only disclosed between the companies and the Department of Health. Now, if patients want to get this certification, it looks a lot like their license. This alone costs $200, and health insurance does not cover any of it.
It's kind of a lost cause for some people.
Nancy Rivera had high hopes when New York legalized medical marijuana, but the cancer survivor says the medicine still out of reach for many patients.
It's impossible to afford it.
First, there's a $50 registration fee, then a doctor's visit to become a certified patient.
$100 to $250 per visit.
Patients reach into your pockets again to pay for the medication.
Future doses for a month's worth could be $2,000.
That's because federal law hasn't decriminalized it, so health insurance doesn't cover it.
A lot of people are going to end up going back to their black market sources.
Which is also what a local medical marijuana patient tells me over the phone.
I probably will.
She asked that we conceal her identity, but admits the process has made illegal weed tempting.
The oral spray, which is like under your tongue, and the capsule, it was almost $300.
And that is a month's supply?
It's a month's supply. It helps some, but I wouldn't say it's really worth the pain.
Is it worth the $300?
I would say at this point, no.
The company that owns this dispensary, Etain, said that they hope to lower the cost as more patients register. In the meantime, they say they will give free vapor pens and charges to patients for their initial purchase to help lessen the burden. Also, in April, medical marijuana advocates say they plan to bring a list of recommendations in hopes of amending New York's law. Live in Albany, I'm Rachel Yankunis for News 10 ABC.
There's a lot to be worked out in these new medical states coming online, and they need to look to other states and not make the same mistakes and not make new mistakes. We'll be right back with Sharon Pomerantz with the BYOC events after this.
It's all about 420 MMJ Radio.
And we're back. And online today, I have Sharon Pomerantz, who is the event runner for the BYOC event, which is presenting the Joseph General Band on Saturday, April 2nd, up here in Santa Fe. Welcome, Sharon.
Thank you, Larry. I'm excited to be hosting this event, first of its kind.
Fantastic. Well, tell us about it and the times and the location and how you get tickets.
Sure. The event is only for medical cannabis card holders. I'm hoping to create a series of events for people to come together and socialize and use their medicine and educate themselves as well about the program. The first event is going to be a fun event with the Joseph General Band, who's a conscious hip-hop reggae group, and they'll be playing music for a couple of hours at the event arena on Agua Fria Street, which is known as Rock and Rollers.
Okay, that's up. That's a roller skating rink, right?
Yeah, we won't be skating that night. We're using the event. It's located at the corner of Agua Fria and Siler. Lots of parking across the street, can accommodate about 300 people. So we're hoping a lot of folks will come out. You can bring your own medicine and use it at the event. There's no alcohol. Must be 21 and over. You can buy tickets at the door and bring your card to the event. We'll be checking cards and IDs.
Okay, so buying tickets at the door, or you can also pre-buy, is that correct?
You can, yes, pre-buy events. I'll be selling them at Sacred Garden, setting up a table there. Most days from 5 to 7. Between now and the event, I'll be there in the evening selling tickets. Or you can reserve a ticket and buy them. We'll call at the door.
Okay, and again, that's Saturday, April 2nd from around 8 p.m. till midnight or so. Now, you say that people can bring their own cannabis. This is for medical patients only, so you can't bring a friend who is not in the program. And there are some rules, about sharing medicine. So let's get that out of the way. I had somebody actually call me the other day and say, is that legal? So explain to us why this event is legal for patients.
You can use your medicine in private, and this is a private party. So as long as you don't share your medicine, transfer your medicine, distribute your medicine, just like the rules apply all the time to each patient, the rules will apply that night.
Right. So people, if you're going to go to the event, which sounds really interesting, be respectful of the rules, because this is our medical cannabis program, and we are unfortunately not allowed to hand our medicine in joint form, pass a pipe, take a communal dab. It's that part of it is not legal. But if you respect the rules and just bring your own for your own use, I think that everybody's going to have a really great time.
Right. You can use your medicine indoors, in the arena, at the event, and there'll be food, there'll be food trucks, there'll be raffles, we'll be giving away some glass, some lighters, some giveaways.
What kind of food trucks, whose food trucks do you have coming? Have you signed up some people?
I think Dr. Feelgoods will be there, and he's in the program as well. We're trying to keep it to card holders if possible to really promote the program and start having regular social events on a monthly basis. We'll be doing a survey that night, seeking information from patients about what they'd like in the future.
Absolutely. Sounds fantastic. Do you plan on holding these in the Albuquerque area in the future as well?
Possibly. Right now, the event arena that we have is perfect because the couple that manages it is in support of the event and will allow us to use our medicine at their location. But if anybody knows of other locations, we can certainly expand.
Absolutely. Well, that sounds fantastic. So again, April 2nd, that's Saturday from 8 p.m. till midnight or so. It's the BYOC events presenting the Joseph General Band. There's going to be food there. It sounds like a great time, and I look forward to seeing everybody there. People from Albuquerque, come on up to Santa Fe for the night and have a good time as well.
And there'll be flyers in most of the dispensaries, so if people need my phone number or email, that's all on the flyer. It's byocevents@gmail.com.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Sharon, for telling us about it, and thanks for trying to bring a little bit of socialization to the medical cannabis program, because I think it's needed. We get to share our experiences, with the medicine and with the afflictions that we are using it for. So thanks again, Sharon, and we'll be right back after this.
And I'll see you there, Larry.
I'll see you there. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
We'll
Bye.
be right back. And by the way, tickets are $25, and again, you can pre-order and you can pay at the door as well. So we'll be right back with our annual Poppin' Seeds, Get Ready for the Summer Grow with Jonathan Sanchez. We'll be right back after this.
The medical marijuana. The medical marijuana. Radio Show.
Hey, this is Scott from Rare Dagnus. You're listening to Medical Marijuana Radio.
And we're back. And online today, I've got Jonathan Sanchez, who is an expert in many areas of growing and being a patient in the program. And we're going to do a little talk today about how to get your summer grow started. Jonathan is with Enchanted Consulting, and welcome to Medical Marijuana Radio, Jonathan.
Yeah, thank you very much, Larry. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. And you know what? I just started popping some seeds the other night on the spring when we turned spring the other day. So let's talk about how people can get started who have PPLs and who are in other states, are able to legally grow cannabis. Let's talk about, either getting started with clones or especially seeds, because many people have different ways of popping their seeds and germinating them. So let's talk about that now.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and get started with seeds because it's definitely the most complicated of them, I guess, just because there's more steps involved. Like when you're going from cutting, it's the cutting's already there, so you just have to take care of it. As far as seeds, where you're getting your seeds, the quality of seeds you're using is a big factor on how quickly and how vigorously your seeds are going to germinate. So definitely getting good quality seeds. And what a good quality seed is going to be nice and big, not too big. These are still seeds, but just big, full, nice and hard. And we'll also have some level of striping or multicolorations, usually dark browns and the tans. And that is going to be signs of a high quality, well-matured seed. An immature seed is going to have, it's going to be more solid in color and very dark or very light. And those are going to be immature seeds that still may germinate, but they may not give you a vigorous growth and vigorous germination that you're really looking for in your seeds. So once you've selected a good quality seed, there's, whether it's regular or feminized, once you've selected a good quality seed, then you can go ahead and germinate that seed. There's definitely quite a few ways to germinate. One of my favorite ways is just to put it in a glass of distilled water. I like to use distilled just because you're keeping chlorine and other salts away from your seed at this point. You just want the H2O to penetrate the seed shell fully. So I usually wait until the seeds will sink. Give them a shake every day or so. Usually it should take about 24 to 48 hours until they fully sink and fully start to crack open. So when they start to do that, I will dump them out and put them on just some wet paper towel and let them fully open up. And once they'll start to open up and release their root tail, that root tail is basically indicating which way you want to plant the seed. That root tail is you want to plant it pointing downwards, and that root tail is going to grow into your media, fill up, and then grow out, producing cotton leaves, and then it'll produce your sets of leaves after that.
So let me ask you. I'll just tell my method as well, so that people have an idea of what I've for 40 years. I've been popping seeds by just I skipped the part of putting them in a glass of water. I go right to a damp paper towel, either on a plate or some kind of a metal tray that I keep moist. And of course, I'm able to mark each little group of paper towels with the different names and seed strains. Because like the other night, I just popped about 15 seeds and of maybe 7 or 8 different strains. What I do is I do obviously the same thing. Once the root tail comes out, then you plant it into your cup, your plastic cup with holes in it, so that it'll drain and you get that started. So do you know? Have you read up on that method of looking at seeds? I think it's a Jamaican thing where if the line on it is on one side, it's more likely to be a female or a male. Have you looked into that?
I've heard people mentioning it. I've looked into it a little bit myself. I haven't done any testing, so I can't say otherwise. But what I understand is it's not the seed itself doesn't have a sex determination yet. It doesn't determine its sex until it's grown. And so, I mean, growing up, what I was taught was that when you can apply slightly warmer temperatures to the root zone, and you'll have more of a propensity to produce females. But I've never once heard about a seed actually being able to look at a seed and be able to see if it's male or female. So I haven't been able to do the testing myself.
I'll just jump in live right here now. personally, I know that stress can cause a female plant to turn male under stress and to be a hermaphrodite. And the system that I was just talking about, there's a video on YouTube about determining whether a seed could be male or female by looking at it. It actually, the bottom of it, where it hooks to the plant, has like a little round volcano-looking a hole at the bottom and a little indentation. That's what supposedly, if you find the ones that have that little volcano indentation, those are the ones that are more likely to be female. That's what the video. You can check out the video on YouTube as well. It's also posted on my Facebook page. All right, so back to Jonathan.
My initial assessment of that is that it's not very accurate.
Okay, well, I know that some people have really great results with that. Everybody out there, and you, Jonathan, try Googling, sexing seeds,
right?
And with a Jamaican, I think it's a Jamaican thing. There's actually a chart on the internet that will show you close-ups of the seeds, and showing the spotting and the striping and so forth that you just spoke about, and then it was telling you that, like, if that line is in a certain position, it's a better chance of being a female. Not the line, but the volcano. What do you recommend as far as if you're popping seeds that are not feminized, but are all the same strain? How many do you think you should pop in order to hopefully get a good female?
Well, I mean, it depends what you're looking for. Like, let's say you start early indoors before your outdoor season approaches. So you're starting indoors, you start early in the season, and you want to, if you can, you want to pop all the seeds you can, because in this case, it's much easier to maintain a mother or just keep using seeds. So if you want to maintain a mom, you can pop all the seeds you can, as much as you have room for and as much as your plant count will allow. Definitely, and so I like to start with 10. I'll pop 10 seeds. I'll see. There's different stages of culling that I like to do. I like to have at least 6 plants that are going to be tested. But if I pop 10 and a couple of them aren't keeping up with the rest of the plants, I'll make sure I'll mark them. And if they still aren't keeping up, will remove them, just because you're going to want to have the strongest growing ones. Not necessarily the fastest, highest growing, but definitely the strongest. Sometimes height can be a factor on how much they stretch, can be a factor on whether or not they are a male or a female.
Right, I found in the past that sometimes the ones that take off and get real tall and skinny ahead of the others sometimes tend to be male.
Exactly.
So
yeah, what you can notice, something to notice with males, is that males are going to grow very fast, and they're going to flower and be done very early. So when you're first flipping into flower, the males are going to show their sex way earlier before most anything else. There are going to be some late blooming males. Those are very good for us breeders, but they're not very good for you guys as people just trying to produce medicine.
Sure.
So definitely.
Go ahead. Definitely.
Oh no. So definitely just keep an eye on those things and realize that they're going to start to stretch and they're going to start to mature quicker than the other females.
Right.
So you can segregate them yourselves, and then keep an eye on the ones that are starting to stretch up a little more than others.
And sometimes in veg, you can tell if there's a female by some pre-flowering that goes on a female plant.
Yes.
You sometimes get that
Yes.
little thing, and also
you see that more in clones, because when they get very, very mature, they will actually pop out one calyx at every node space. And they just do that when they get very, very big and very mature. And so you'll see that on clones sometimes when you'll get clones from dispensaries.
Well, sometimes, clones should always be female unless somebody unscrupulously is cutting a plant that they don't know what the sex is. But let's go from the root and being planted down, let's say you go right from germinating them and popping them from some paper towels in your glass and so forth, and then you were going right into some cups, right?
Right.
So
or a tray. You could use a tray with black. They have them at any grow store. Just a black seed starting tray, and then you can get the cells that you insert into the seed starting tray. It's just an insert that goes right into the tray, and it has 72 cells there that you can put your seeds in. Fill it with your media that you're choosing to use, and then you go ahead and put your seeds in there. The benefits of that is that you can put a dome on it. They can have a lot of humidity, and you can make sure you can put your seedling mat underneath it, so you're getting a higher temperature at the root zone, a slightly higher temperature, to help with germination and to help the vigor of germination.
All right, so let's talk about what medium to use, let's say, to get your seeds going. Do you want something that's got nutrients in it, or you want something that's blander? And what do you feed your seedlings?
You definitely want something that doesn't have too much nutrient in it. Like a very popular soil is Fox Farm Ocean Forest, and that's definitely going to be too hot for seedlings. I actually have started seeds in Ocean Forest, and I know plenty of other people that have. Some will do perfectly fine. It's just sometimes you'll get a strain that's very finicky when it comes to nutrient, and starting out in something that is very hot is not good for them. I like to use cocoa or actually a lot of these nutrient companies that make soils also make a seed starting formula. So using a seed starting formula is a good thing because it's going to have B1, it's going to have some little micronutrients that other soils won't have, but is beneficial to seedlings. And I like to use just cocoa, though, because for the first couple weeks, you won't have, or not couple weeks, first couple days to a week, once the sprout has sprouted and the cotylene leaves are opening and that we have, sets starting to grow, for the first week or two, the plant's going to feed itself with the nutrients that were available in the seed. And then after about the first week to 2 weeks, you'll want to give them some nutrient when you're using cocoa. If you're using a soil, you're definitely will just let it go until it gets bigger, and then maybe when you transplant it, you could start feeding it.
By the way, I just want to interject that as far as sexing the plants are concerned, I believe after maybe 2 or 3 sets of leaves have grown, I think Steep Hill Labs has a process to where they can take a leaf and test it for sex at that point, and they can pretty much tell you 100% if that's a male or a female.
If they could do that, that is super awesome. Like, that is definitely something that is going to save people money in the long run. Not just patients, but the producers as well. Just because we can be growing from seed more consistently.
Absolutely, and of course,
seed's going to always produce better vigor.
Right.
Than growing from clone.
Absolutely, I agree with you on that. So, all right. So we're out of the paper towel. We're into one of those cups. Those red cups that everybody uses.
We're into Dixie cup.
And you poke holes in the bottom so that they'll drain properly. Right. How long?
Or just something simple is cut. Just take a pair of scissors and cut along the edge of the cup on the bottom. It doesn't really matter if the holes are big. You actually kind of want some big holes as long as your soil is staying inside the cup.
Right.
But that's something, so you don't have to poke holes or worry about poking yourself. You easily just take a pair of scissors and trim off the edge of the cup on either side.
It also helps, if you have some holes down there for drainage, and also once you see that the roots are starting to come out those holes, then that's usually a pretty good indication to go into the next size up. Is that what you do as well? Where do you go from?
I would probably I usually transplant them as based on the size of the plant itself, because the plant itself is going to. I'm sorry. The roots are going to grow how the roots are going to grow. They're going to really grow really fast. And when you're using a Dixie cup, you don't necessarily want the roots to grow too much into the sides of the cup, because what roots do is they'll grow straight down, and then they'll grow to the edges of the vessel, and then they'll begin to circle around the cup. And that's they do that in all pots, in all regular pots. So that's something that you definitely want to avoid. So you definitely don't want to let your plants get too root bound in a way. They are not yet root bound, actually, but you don't want to let the roots get too full in the cup. Just enough to hold everything together for when you go to transplant, you're not causing damage.
Sure. So where would you go from the 16-ounce cup? From there, would you go into a 1 gallon? Would you go into a 2 or a 3? Or
that depends on now this comes into planning of the garden. So when we go from a Dixie cup, it's gonna dictate what size is gonna be going to by what our garden is doing. A lot of times I'll just go from the 16-ounce Dixie cup into your forever home for the plant, where the home's gonna live and die in that pot.
So if you're talking about a smart pot or one of those fabric bag pots, you would go directly from there. Now, of course, that all depends upon what the season is like, because here in New Mexico, we sort of have a short season. The earliest I've ever been outside was about the 18th of May, because we do get some freezes and stuff in May. So
right. No, definitely. You definitely don't want to go out until later on in the season. Definitely don't want to go outside.
Right, because well, first of all, you have that light to dark differential that really helps things. So you have to be careful. So if you are starting indoors, I mean, obviously now is the time. It's almost April 1st in next week.
Definitely.
So
now is the time. You might not even need to transplant out of the Dixie cups if you start this week.
Well, I don't know.
Just keep them in the Dixie cups and see what happens.
Until the end of May, you think you could do that? That sounds to me a little bit long.
I mean, it's a long time, but I mean, if because I just don't. When it comes to transplanting is the number one, hands down, most stressful time in a plant's life. It does not, regardless, hands down. So definitely avoiding messing with the roots as much as possible is what you definitely want to be doing, and especially if you're new at gardening and you don't have the steadiest of hands, because if it just beating up a couple root hairs definitely slows growth a little bit, and it's going to cause a little bit of transplant shock. So
what do you use, a little vitamin B when you transplant?
Yeah. Use a little vitamin B and or a product like Liquid Karma. Liquid Karma has a little bit of those things in it. It's going to help with transplant shock. It's going to help with a lot of different shock, the different stresses. I like to use Liquid Karma throughout growth. Some sort of biocatalyst is going to help you help your nutrients get used correctly.
All right, so let's talk about.
If you're going outside.
Exactly.
And you're going to be transplanting them into a larger pot, I would definitely stick with putting them into cloth pots, even inside. Those cloth pots are going to help grow your roots, and they're also going to help you transplant correctly. Because what happens is the roots grow to the edge of the pot, they grow outside of the pot, they get root pruned, and then just like when you're topping the top of a plant, those interior roots will split, and they will cause more root hairs than if the root was just left to do its own thing. And the plant feeds from its root hairs and not necessarily its roots. So the tips of the roots is where a lot of the feeding is happening. So the majority of the roots that you can have tips on, you're able to uptake more nutrients. And then when you go to transplant that plant into the ground or into a larger pot, your root hairs are already at the edge of your root ball, ready to explode into your new pot. So definitely, if you're planning on transplanting more than in your initial Dixie cup, you definitely want to use a cloth pot or a root building type of pot of some kind.
So
something that has holes
for
around
drainage.
the pot.
So
for air.
Okay.
It's not drainage, it's for air.
So how about, let's say people are growing actually outside, not in pots, but, for instance, I use a couple of cloth pots, the Smart Pots or one of the other brands. There's a brand actually made here in Santa Fe.
That's cool.
And I also have a big hole. So let's say you have a big hole in the ground, and you've had a couple seasons. It's not like you just dig up a hole and you're using the soil that's in your backyard. You really have to buy some soil that would be good for cannabis, because the soil here is too thick and clay type and so forth. So you really have to dig out a hole. So let's say you've used a couple of seasons of your ocean forest in that hole. How would you amend? Do you have any suggestions on amending your soil? Some people like to reuse their soil, especially outdoors.
Yeah, I definitely like. So if you're in a position like that, what you initially want to do is if you're not already using it, give the soil some enzymes. So there's going to be EM is a beneficial bacteria that's going to help process the roots that are still left in your media, help break those down a little bit so your pH evens out. So as far as additives, I would definitely start with dolomite lime. Dolomite lime is going to even out your pH. It's going to make sure your pH maintains its evenness throughout your growth of your plant. So the dolomite, like I use when I'm mixing, if I'm mixing soil, I definitely start with dolomite lime, because it's going to make that pH just maintain itself a little easier.
Mm-hmm. I also, of course, we're talking about the pH in the soil itself, not in the water.
Right.
The pH in your
In
water
the soil, yes,
is something
not
different
in
as
the
well.
water.
I also like to amend my outdoor soil with worm castings.
Yes.
The girls seem to just really love worm castings, so you can get them
Yeah,
at a lot of nurseries and so forth.
Worm castings, mixing in some compost, those things are going to, and there's a million ways to make soil. Mm-hmm. Like there's a million ways to amend soil. But I mean, my favorite ones are worm castings. If I'm outside, I'm going to probably be using some compost. So worm casting, compost, some blood meal, and some crustacean meal of some kind.
Sure.
Because the crustacean meal is going to really help your flowers fill in when it's that. Because you're outside, especially in the ground. Flowers don't tend to get very dense. They tend to stay a little fluffy. So adding a little bit of crustacean meal is going to help dense up those flowers a little bit. And you're going to want to mix this soil a month or so, maybe even a little longer, before you put your plants in there. Definitely cover your hole with some black plastic so it stays warm, and let it cook. Let all those beneficial bacteria and all those enzymes process those hard nutrients into something that's going to be usable for the plant.
That sounds.
And then,
go ahead. And then go ahead.
No, and then after that month or two, you're able to you can then use the soil, and it's just going to be a better environment. You're going to have a lot of beneficial funguses that have grown, a lot of beneficial bacteria that have grown, and it's going to keep your soil healthy throughout the season.
So let's talk about feeding in veg, because we need to sort of hit on some points and then wrap this up. So feeding in veg, what do you recommend? What do you like to use? I mean, obviously you want to keep it organic or veganic, as Kyle Cushman has a line of stuff out. So tell me about what to feed in veg, how often you really need to feed, about pHing the water that you're getting out of the tap and so forth.
Right. Really, it depends on what if you're choosing to use bottled nutrient. Like you can veg for quite a while in some ocean forest. If you're using beneficials and enzymes, the ocean forest is going to provide you quite a bit of nutrient during your small plant veg. Like if you're just in between transplanting, you just want to use ocean forest, that's going to get you by. Now, if you're looking to actually feed, something, using organic is going to definitely be the best way to go. If you're using soil and you haven't mixed the soil yourself to be able to add, your additives, I like to use a general organic line or even something like Roots Organic, but Roots Organic is a little complicated. It's a lot easier to keep it with something that you can make mistakes on, and Roots Organic you definitely cannot. So the general organic line, you can buy it in a little starter pack. So you can check it out. It's really easy. It has quite a bit of nutrients involved, but it's definitely super easy. Just a good baseline, a good veg nutrient is where you want to start. Whatever choice you want to be using, a good veg nutrient. And then some sort of root enhancer of some kind. Different companies make different root enhancers. General Organics, their root booster is probably one of my favorites. I just enjoy using the General Organics line. It seems to work really well. One thing about the Geo line, though, is you definitely want to be feeding it a little heavier than you would other nutrients.
See, that's interesting because everybody usually says cut down on what's recommended on these bottles. Cut down and use less.
Most cases, that is what you want to be doing. But the General Organics line is a little weak. It's something that because it's weak, it's not going to burn your plants. So you can go a little heavier to get a vigorous growth. That's what's a lot of times I've run into clients that have used General Organics but don't necessarily like it because they're not getting the vigorous growth. And that is from not using beneficials and not using enzymes to help push it. And then they're also dialing back a little bit on the nutrient. And with General Organics, you don't want to necessarily do that.
All right, so let's just briefly talk about maintenance, prophylactic maintenance on bugs. I mean, if you're growing outside, there's bugs, there's animals, there's all kinds of stuff. So what can you do to help prevent your plants from getting some kind of a bad bug?
Definitely using preventative maintenance is going to help. As far as like smaller bugs like whiteflies and
mites,
like spider mites. Spider mites are a little different. They're a little harder to kill. But as far as like small, just pest bugs, spider mites are a big thing. I've run into not spider mites, whiteflies. I've run into whiteflies on multiple occasions in multiple different areas here in New Mexico. It's just a thing that we have. Whiteflies are, as far as a preventative maintenance, something like a neem oil is going to help prevent a lot of infestation. Because and you don't use it very often. You'll use it if you're using it sparingly. You definitely want to use it before you go into flower, before you see flowers. Give them a good cleaning, maybe once or twice during veg. I like to use it during the heights of summer. I would definitely use it at least maybe once a week, and do it before the sun comes up. I know that's definitely a hard thing. If you're indoors, it's really easy because you could just turn your lights off. But you definitely want to do any sprays very, very early in the morning or before your lights turn on, so you're not getting the magnifying effect that you get when you spray liquids onto a plant surface.
Right,
that's really what we're trying to avoid.
The water will act as a magnifying glass and burn your leaves.
Right.
I guess is what.
Right.
What is the ratio of H2O to the neem oil that you like for the spray?
I definitely go a little under recommended on the product. Because there's different neem oil extracts. There's like stuff like Azamax, which is a neem oil concentrate. They're all very similar, so definitely go a little less than what is recommended on the product.
Isn't Azamax on the no-go list in Colorado?
It might be. I actually haven't seen that. I don't use it just because it is processed. I don't. I mean, but some people want to. I have used it in the past, but I can understand.
Yeah, I'm not going to.
I can understand that.
I'm not going to recommend Azamax for people.
Yeah, no, definitely not. I like just use as natural neem oil as you can obtain.
All right, so
neem oil is very good though. It coats the plant surface and prevents bugs from getting into the plant. Like normally, how a bug is going to feed on the plant is it's going to latch on to the leaf itself and begin to suck the juices from the leaf. And a nice coating of the neem oil helps prevent them being able to latch on because they just don't like the way it tastes.
Sure. I think what we'll do is we pretty much covered getting started and going through veg. I'll have you back, when the light changes, when things start to flower, and we'll talk more about what to do while things are in flower, and then and what to do when the harvest and so forth. So we'll do that. But before I let you go, you are planning an event for the beginning of June. You're also an advocate, for the program and for patients. So tell me just briefly about the event. I know it's not totally set up, but maybe you could tell people, approximately when it'll be so they can save the date.
Right. Well, it's going to be the first week of June, the first Friday of June. And what it's going to be is it's going to be a panel discussion. We're going to get together some producers, and they're going to field questions from the patients. So everybody's invited, but it's definitely for the patients. Like I said, to me, the first week of June, it's going to be at the UNM Law School. They have a room that can fit 150 people, and we're gonna go ahead and rent out that space. It's going to be from about noon to about 3:30. So we're going to definitely provide food. There's going to be some talks regarding new information. That's one thing, is any talk that's going to be there is going to be new information, something that is not being told or so information that's not available readily, but is still new and relevant to what's going on, particularly here in New Mexico.
Will there be a charge for that event?
I'm not 100% sure. Right now, I'm shooting for no charge. We're looking for sponsors. We're going to potentially have Normal involved. We're trying to. I'm actually working on the board of the soon-to-be board for the Normal chapter for here in New Mexico, and we're working on getting that Normal chapter going. So it could be sponsored by Normal, but we're definitely looking for sponsors because I want to make it a free event. I started this to get information to people. I started this whole adventure to get information to people, and for this particular event, I really just want to clear some air and to get all of us on the same page, because that's one thing is with the DOH, they can't hear all these voices. They can only hear a few voices at a time, and so we need to unify our voice to be, and not just with the producers and the patients, unify our voice as the industry, as consumers, and as people who are providing for the consumers, and that is something that we can do, because not only do patients want it to happen, producers also want it to happen, and people that I've talked to in the industry want something like this, an open conversation to happen. And if I can provide a place for that is just a starting point. We're not looking for answers here. We're not looking for everybody's answers to be answered that day. We're looking as a starting point and as a way for us to all get on the same page for when we do go to the DOH or when we do go to Santa Fe and talk, that we all know what we're talking about. We're saying it as one voice.
Sure.
Rather than this whole group of people.
Sure. Well, I look forward to that. That sounds exciting. We'll have you on maybe a couple weeks beforehand also to talk about the event and who's going to be attending and so forth. Why don't you give out your website address, your email? Jonathan also does consulting for patients and helps them get their grows together, maybe troubleshoots. If you're having a problem, you can call Jonathan, and he's got a little consulting firm. So how do people get a hold of you?
You can go ahead and shoot me an email at enchantedconsulting@gmail.com. Go ahead and look up my website at enchantedconsulting.com, or you can just give me a call, at 505-958-1989. And give me a call, and the first initial consultation is always free. I'll definitely come in and we just figure out what's happening with the garden or what you want out of your garden. And then after that, it's $30 an hour, and we can get a lot done in a couple hours. I definitely work hard. I'm not doing this to make a fortune. I'm doing this to really help people and make sure everybody's gardening in a fun and a safe way. Gardening should be enjoyable, and gardening should always be safe.
And also, this goes for indoor grows as well, not just outdoors. So
Yes.
if you're having a problem,
No, not just outdoor.
Right. So
We're talking about outdoor. If you're having a problem indoors, I actually specialize in indoor gardening. I specialize in setting up indoor gardens. I have a licensed electrician that even if any electrical needs to be touched, it's all going to be on code. You're going to have your emergency shutoffs. You're going to have everything that you should have in a grow space.
Fantastic.
Now that we can have enough plants to run 4,000 watts. Some people are trying to do it. And if you're going to be under 4,000 watts, it needs to be installed safely. You need to have those proper things installed correctly, or the proper electricity installed correctly. I cannot stress that enough.
So
that is huge.
Jonathan, thank you very much for enlightening us today. And give Jonathan a call. Check out his website. It's enchantedconsulting.com. And Jonathan, thanks a lot. And we'll have you back when things start to flower to talk about what to feed and how to flower.
Beautiful. Sounds good.
We'll be right back after this.
See the farmer on the other side of town is always working hard till the sun goes down. It's up every morning, right on fire, a white and green seed just to come alive. Well, it don't wear no farm clothes. It's always using a rake and hoe, but it seeds they're starting to grow like a beanstalk to the sky. Used to live in an apartment in a big old city with thick and pistol windows built right in it. But he decided to move to a little tiny town and wanna be a farmer all year round. And on a country road where you can't see a thing, he's got 5 acres filled with little green beans. He said he's working so hard all night and day. Mr. Farmer, let me watch your crops. Mr. Farmer, let me water your crops. Mr. Farmer, let me harvest your crops. I wanna have a green thumb too. I said, farmer, 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 I wanna be just like you. See the farmer walking downtown, always drives a crowd when he's around. He's always wearing a city clothes. It shows him all wherever he goes. You can spot him anywhere. Got a bright pink thumb, well he don't care. I said it looks like something from the very factory. Mr. Farmer, let me watch your crops. Mr. Farmer, let me water your crops. Mr. Farmer, let me harvest your crops. Mr. Farmer, let me save your crops. Said a farmer, farmer, a farmer, farmer. The medical marijuana. The medical marijuana. Radio show.
Thank you, Jonathan. Give him a call if you have any need for his services, if you have some problems with your indoor or outdoor grow. Also, don't forget next Saturday from 8 till whenever at up here in Santa Fe. It's the BYOC event. Thank you, Sharon, for telling us about that. And I'd like to thank my two radio mentors, both with the initials HS. Thank you for your inspiration. If you'd like to be a guest on this show, if you have a website, a product that you think our audience would like to know about, write us at info@mmjradio.com. Again, info@mmjradio.com. If you'd like to hear any of our older shows, they're still very enlightening and very important, you can go to mmjradio.com. Also, my YouTube channel is LSLove88. SoundCloud and Spreaker is MMJ Radio, CannabisTube.net. Also on Spreaker, it's the Time for Hemp Global Broadcasting Network. Also Time for Hemp on iHeartRadio. That's iHeart.com. On Now TV, channel 937. Also heard on 420radio.org and Pothead Universe Radio as well on Sundays.
Shalom.
Ba